Did you ever wonder what car an American 007 would drive if a Bond movie was set in the US? Probably not. But just for fun, think about it for a second. If you want, you can share your top picks in the comments. But there's one car that probably didn't even cross your mind, and it's one that often gets overlooked in American car history. That car is today's topic, the Studebaker Gran Turismo Hawk. And this is its story. This video is inspired by two articles about the Studebaker Gran Turismo Hawk, one from How Stuff Works and another from Curbside Classic. You'll find the links in the Google Doc linked in the description. I highly recommend checking them out if you'd like to learn more. The Studebaker Gran Turismo Hawk was one of the most ambitious projects of the early 1960s. At a time when large corporations like Ford and General Motors were dominating the market with nearly endless resources, Studebaker was facing tough competition with a much smaller budget. Yet, against all odds, Studebaker managed to make a significant impact with this car, bringing something fresh to the table with its refined design and modern features. It all started with Sherwood Egbert, the president of Studebaker, who was determined to turn the company's fortunes around. In the face of declining market share, Egbert knew that something had to change. He laid out three plans to help revive the company, and one of them was to redesign the Gran Turismo Hawk. For this important task, Egbert enlisted Brooks Stevens, a talented industrial designer known for his wide range of work, from motorcycles and radios to airplanes. Stevens was the perfect choice, but there was a challenge: the budget. Unlike the big automotive giants, Studebaker didn't have the luxury of tens of millions of dollars or years of development time. Stevens had to make the most out of what he had, and he had only a few months to deliver. Stevens was handed the task of redesigning the Gran Turismo Hawk with just $7 million for both the Hawk and the Lark. When you compare that to the budget that Ford and General Motors were working with, many millions of dollars more, it's easy to see the challenge Stevens faced. But rather than back down, he took on the project with an enthusiasm that would prove contagious. He had only a few months to complete the redesign, while the big automakers had years. It was like racing against the clock, but Stevens had the creativity and skill to rise to the occasion. Taking inspiration from the existing Starliner design, Stevens reworked it to bring it into the modern era. And no, this wasn't just about changing a few details here and there. Stevens and his team went full throttle into the redesign. The car's overall appearance had to embody European sophistication while maintaining American comfort. This combination would give the Gran Turismo Hawk a sophisticated appearance while still offering the comfort American drivers appreciated. The name Gran Turismo Hawk was fitting. It was a car that made you feel like you could effortlessly cruise on highways with a sense of elegance. The most noticeable changes to the 1962 Gran Turismo Hawk were in its front grille, which took inspiration from European designs like those of Mercedes-Benz. Stevens cleaned up the design, moving away from excessive chrome and sharp fins, opting instead for a smoother, more refined look. The car's profile was streamlined, and even the rear end received attention. The taillights were positioned so they could be seen from the side. Stevens also gave the roof a flat design, which wasn't just for aesthetics. It provided more headroom for rear seat passengers. This thoughtful design made the car feel more spacious and comfortable for everyone. Inside, the Gran Turismo Hawk was both practical and stylish. The dashboard featured a simple vertical three-panel layout with large, easy-to-read instruments, and this layout was inspired by the clean, functional design of airplanes, ensuring everything was right where it needed to be. The seats were large and comfortable, built for long drives, and to keep costs down, Studebaker made the inner cowl out of fiberglass, a first for the company. Under the hood, the Gran Turismo Hawk came with a 289 cubic inch V8 engine that offered 225 horsepower with the optional 4-barrel carburetor. For those who wanted even more power, there was an optional supercharged engine that pushed output to 290 horsepower. Whether you preferred the smooth automatic transmission or the 4-speed manual, the Hawk had the performance to match its stylish looks. The car also featured advanced suspension systems, including telescopic shock absorbers and coil springs, ensuring a smooth and stable ride even at high speeds. The car had the look and feel of a fast, four-passenger European Grand Touring vehicle. Motor Trend praised it as a willing and able car, definitely in the tradition of the high-speed tourers of Europe. But of course, no car is perfect. While the performance and styling of the Gran Turismo Hawk impressed many, there were some issues with the braking system, according to Car Life. The magazine noted that the brakes on the test car were unreliable, though they didn't believe this issue would be as extreme on other units. Still, it was a concern, and Studebaker offered an option for oversized brakes that should have helped address the problem. Despite this, the car's overall performance and driving experience were praised. Despite its impressive design and performance, the Gran Turismo Hawk struggled to capture the market's attention. By 1962, Studebaker was already facing financial difficulties, and convincing buyers to invest in a car from a company with an uncertain future wasn't easy. However, the car did receive praise from critics. The car's ability to combine comfort and performance in such a stylish package made it stand out, even if it didn't have the massive marketing power of the larger automakers. During its production run from 1962 to 1964, the Gran Turismo Hawk underwent only minor changes, mainly to keep it up to date. The biggest updates were under the hood, with the introduction of higher performance engine options like the R1 and R2 supercharged versions of the 289 engine. These upgrades were about more than just looks. They were designed for speed and performance. The Gran Turismo Hawk even saw some action on the racetrack, with Studebaker campaigning a race car version at Bonneville, where it reached speeds over 140 miles per hour. That kind of performance proved that the Hawk wasn't just a show car, it could back up its stylish looks with serious power. Despite the car's undeniable appeal, Studebaker couldn't overcome its financial troubles. In 1964, things were looking rough for the Gran Turismo Hawk. Sherwood Egbert, the man behind the car's revival, was battling cancer. After surgery and a brief recovery, his health took another hit and he had to resign. Sadly, he passed away not long after, leaving a big hole at Studebaker. With Egbert no longer at the helm and the company's finances crumbling, it wasn't long before Studebaker made the tough decision to stop making the Gran Turismo Hawk. Production didn't even last through 1964. By December 1963, Studebaker had already shut down operations in South Bend and moved what was left of the company to their Hamilton, Ontario plant. Even with the praise the Gran Turismo Hawk received from critics, buyers were too hesitant to invest in a car from a company that seemed on the verge of closing its doors. In the end, only 15,736 Gran Turismo Hawks were sold across the entire production run, far less than the 92,000 Thunderbirds Ford sold in 1960 or the 40,000 Buick Rivieras in 1963. Although the Gran Turismo Hawk didn't last long, it's one of those cars that has aged surprisingly well. Today it's appreciated with more love than it ever got when it was first released. Stevens' work on the Gran Turismo Hawk and other projects like the Scepter is still remembered today, with some of these designs on display at the Brooks Stevens Museum in Wisconsin. So, as I mentioned earlier, do you think the Studebaker Gran Turismo Hawk would be a good choice for an American 007 in a Bond movie set in the US? If not, what car do you think would fit the role better? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe and click on the recommended video that appears on the screen. It's all about the Ford Seattleite 21, a Ford concept car from 1962 that, honestly, could be another solid choice for an American 007. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.